Well, there are quite a few people that have been chatting for quite a long time. Good to see some of the members here. SM Kovalinsky, Kathy Chase. Kathy says, I'm at work, so I didn't hear closing. What do you think? Kathy, the good news is I've recorded a couple of pages of notes with what I thought were the standout comments during the closing arguments. So hopefully I can kind of bring you up to speed on the highlights of the closing arguments. Amy Hall, good to see you. Pauline Buckle says closing arguments were interesting to say the least. That means that they've done their job. If the closing arguments were interesting, it means that they touched on all the relevant highlights and both teams kind of did their job. The question is who made the better legal case on the one hand and which narrative was the most compelling but also anchored in the evidence. Morgan LeFay says, totally agree with you. Both should walk away with nothing. At least now we all know both sides. Okay. Choice is here. Good morning, everyone from New Zealand. Choice, I didn't know you were from New Zealand, but that Kiwi definitely is going to stick in my mind, definitely. Nisi, good to have you here. We definitely need a mod. Nisi, by the way, please just be aware of the chat, and normally we don't have anything to worry about, but I think, with this sort of thing, just be vigilant and, obviously people are out of line, just let them know, give them a warning, and then, what I want to do in this episode is basically take you through the highlights of the closing arguments, but more pertinently, I'm going to take you through the allegations. So in the previous live stream, I sort of said, basically what this case is all about is Amber Heard's op-ed, right? And then I said, have you guys read the op-ed? And I think 2/3 of you hadn't actually read it. And now we're going to deal with the allegations and the question. So in other words, if you say the op-ed is, if you dispute the op-ed, if you say the op-ed is defamatory, and so it's based on things that didn't happen, that's when you open the can of worms and you say, okay, so what is it based on? And then you say, no, that person didn't do something, no, but that person did. And that's how the allegations come into play. I want to talk about the legal technicalities in a moment, but before I do that, I want to just address this poll. And the poll was quite sneakily designed. I designed it so that you're either going to err on the side of totally not knowing what you're talking about, or you're going to either get it right or err on the side of knowing more. And so the question was, how many separate incidents were discussed during the trial? And the first two answers were 2 or 3. And a total of 32%, almost a third of you, thought that only 2 or 3 incidents were discussed. That shows a frightening level of ignorance about a case that's gone on for 6 weeks. If you didn't know that there were more than 10 different incidents, then I don't know what you were doing for 6 weeks. Maybe you were so busy in chat that you weren't really paying attention to one incident after the next that was brought up. The answer is kind of debatable. The answer is that there were either 14 incidents, if you take Amber Heard's word for it, or there were 12. You can say there were incidents where nothing really happened, but you can also say the UK court found that 12 of the 14 alleged incidents were credible. That was what the UK court found. And I've taken quite a lot of flack where people have said what the UK court thought or said or did is absolutely irrelevant while it came up in closing arguments. It's not absolutely irrelevant, it's absolutely relevant, right? what happened in the UK court was Johnny Depp testified for parts of 5 days. So it's also not true that he never got a chance to state his case. I do think that it's a fair point to make that the USA is not the UK. And the question is how much. We're going to find that out in the next few days. We're going to find out how much the USA is not like the UK, right? So the answer to the question is, and I see to your credit, to those who answered the poll, I'm just trying to, how many did answer the poll? If you haven't voted, make sure you do vote. Around about 80 votes, 60, almost 70% of you said it was more than 10. So at least the majority of you at least know that. What I want to stress and simplify in this analysis is that if I had been Rottenborn, right, if I was the defendant attorney, I'm not sure if it would apply as much if I was on the other side. I'm just thinking about if I was, because I did study law, if I was in their shoes, how could I have done it better, arguably? Maybe if I make this argument and they heard it, they would say, yes, but, and they would make a convincing argument. The way that I would do it, and Nisi says, please respect chat and Nick. Thanks a lot for that. Morgan Le Fay says UK was a court hearing, no jury. You must bear in mind, if the jury finds in, let's say, in Amber's favor, would you still say that then? Would you still say, well, this is, a jury trial is totally different? Of course, if they don't, then maybe you can make that argument. But justice is justice, truth is truth, evidence is evidence. A reasoned legal argument is a reasoned legal argument. Anyway, the point that I want to make is if I was in the situation of, let's say I was a consultant and they said, okay, you've written a lot of books, you've written over 100 books, you know narrative, you know how to structure it, you know how to tell a reasonably tight story, how would you do it? And how I would do it is you don't want to lose the jury. You don't want them to start drifting in their minds. You want to keep them on the same page that you're on, right? You want to keep up with a strong case. And so how I would have done it is I would say, I'm going to take you through the timeline, and we're going to do that in this live stream. I'm going to take you through the timeline, and I'm going to take you systematically, chronologically, through the 14 alleged incidents. And we're going to name them. We're going to say almost like chapters. Number one, this is when it happened, and we're going to go through it now. So if you're not sure what those 14 incidents were, we're going to go through them, not in a lot of detail. Each one will probably take 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. But the point is that at the end of the trial, whether you're the jury or anybody else watching, you should at least have a good idea what these 14 incidents were, right? You should be able to almost name them, almost like having sat in the court or having attended trial, whether outside the court or inside, for 6 weeks. You should be able to know these incidents off by heart, like months of the year. There are 12 months in the year, we'll add 2, right? And you should also just get a basic sense of the first couple were in these years, and this is the pattern of them, right? And that is going to give you a global sense of what we're talking about. Now, what I find, when I talk about very complicated cases like the John Benet Ramsey case and so on, you want to know what's your point of entry? Where do you sort of come in? How do you start telling people the story, but in a way that's fresh and refreshing, but also accurate, right? And so that is really the bottom line here, is how do you come into this, the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard circus, and how do you come into that with a fresh narrative that is factual, relevant, important, and compelling? And to me, the answer is the timeline, right? Not where you go into each aspect of the timeline exhaustively, simply where you provide a framework and you say, this is the skeleton of what we're talking about, and make that sort of demystify that. Does that make sense? So what do you guys want me to do first? Do you want me to go through the 14 incidents? As I say, each one will take about 5 minutes. Or do you want me to go through the highlights of today's closing arguments? Which one do you want me to do first? I would prefer to go through, what would I prefer to do? Well, let's see what you guys prefer. Kathy says, cute puppy. Sharon Lynn says, please like, subscribe, share. Nisi says, what is easier? I don't know how many of you missed the closing argument. So if you've, Sarah Morris says timeline. Okay. Well, we are going to do both. It's just a question of which one to do first. SM Kovalinsky says closing arguments. Spirit of 776 says 14 incidents. I think let's start with the 14 incidents, right? Now, what I want to emphasize is those of you who are whatever, Team Johnny or Team Amber, this isn't about that. It's not to say, Jody, we'll go through the incidents. What I want you to do is just for whatever it is, 20 minutes or half an hour, instead of deciding, I believe this, I just want you to listen and try and remember the history of what we're talking about. I want you just to be aware of the information. So we don't want to make a judgment here. We simply want to absorb it. And then after that, we're going to go through the closing arguments and see where it takes us, okay? So I'm not saying keep an open mind for the next few days. I'm just saying for the next maybe 20, 30 minutes, try and keep an open mind, right? In other words, I'm going to go through these incidents, and the main thing to bear in mind is when they are happening, where they're happening, how many they are, and sort of the basic thing. So let me put the ball in your court. Does anyone know what the very first incident was? If you were paying attention to this court case, you should know the answer. What was the very first alleged incident that took place between Johnny and Amber? HI says Rottenborn's finish, I believe, was well done, and I'm glad he brought up the Constitution. I thought Rottenborn's opening was much, much more well done than his closing. That was my personal thought. Okay, Sarah Morris, very well done. Sarah Morris says the wino tattoo incident, 10 out of 10. Yes, Susan says about Winona. Ashley says, was it over the tattoo? Absolutely right. So you guys who know that you're right, do you know when it took place, and do you know where it took place? Do you know what year it took place? And do you know, that's right, not there yet. Do you know where it took place? Just give the city. And do you know what year it took place? Laura von Staten says Winona tattoo, that's right. Hi, Sunflowers, good to see you. Nisi says nice answer group, okay. Anyone have an idea of what year it happened? Remember, we're going through this chronologically. So we're going, someone says 1993, not quite. Not there, it says 2015, not quite. Sarah Morris, you're right. Los Angeles, 2013. So this is the very first incident. And I'm going to praise telling you about it by saying to you that there were 3 incidents in 2013, right? So Amber Heard is fielded, Nisi, I thought you meant 2013. Amber Heard has fielded 14 allegations. 3 of them came from early on, 2013. So 3 of those, almost a quarter, are from 2013, all from 1 year, right? So let's go through it. Los Angeles, early 2013, so in the beginning of the year 2013. So the first assault allegedly took place after Amber Heard joked about Johnny Depp's tattoo, the tattoo that he had tattooed onto his shoulder during his relationship with Winona Ryder. And as you know, it originally read Winona Forever and was altered to Wino Forever. So the NA was I guess deleted. The NA was sort of scratched out. So the tattoo was altered from Winona Forever to Wino Forever, right? After they split up, he changed it, right? And Amber said that she kind of made a joke about it. She didn't realize he had this tattoo. She couldn't quite figure out what it said. And then when she did realize what it said, I think she laughed. And she said when she laughed, Johnny Depp got angry and knocked her to the floor. And then she cried and apologized. And then he said apparently that he sometimes turns into the monster, right? So that is the first incident. And I'm not going to say what my impression was, but when she spoke about that impression, it made an impression on me during the live stream. Someone here said supposedly just slapped her. I understood that he actually slapped her 3 times from the closing arguments and that she was on the ground. It does say here, knocked her to the floor. And then apparently Johnny cried and apologized afterwards, apologized for so what does someone say here? She said he slapped her 3 times. Well done, Blue Flame. So that's the first incident, right? Anyone know what the second incident was? Pauline says slapping someone is not acceptable. Nisi says just is a difficult word. Susan says my impression was and is she's a pathological liar. You can't trust anything she said. Okay. Anyone know what the second incident was? So this is also 2013. Okay, so no, not airplane. Yes, alleged incidents. It is alleged incidents. All of these are alleged incidents. Okay, so the second incident was also in Los Angeles, also in 2013. And this was all about, according to Amber, Johnny got paranoid. He just got upset because of a painting that was in, I think, their bedroom. It had been there for some time. And he, for some reason, got paranoid about it and thought that they were still having a relationship and tried to set fire to this painting. And then, according to Amber, hit her so hard that blood from her lip ended up on the wall, that there was a bit of blood that transferred to the wall, right? So the second incident is related to this painting. First one, tattoo. Second one, painting, right? First one, allegedly slapped to the ground. Second one, there was blood from her lip. And then during this testimony, she described Depp as being like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I think she said something about Johnny drank whiskey and took cocaine prior to all of this happening, right? So that's the second one. Anyone know what the third one was? Yeah, Susan, I think I don't know whether you want to call her first wife or partner or mistress, but it was Tazia Van Ree who it was her ex-partner, I guess, is the proper way to say that. And so he was concerned about that. Does anyone know what the third incident was? I'll give you a hint. It was also in 2013. It wasn't in LA, and it was in the summer, around about almost this time of year in 2013. Any thoughts? Not there yet, says the pic matched the statement on whiskey and coke lines. Bahamas, no, not Bahamas. Something she was going to wear from Ashley. Good to see you, Ashley. On his island, no. Okay, so the answer is Hicksville. So Hicksville was the third incident. So first two, Los Angeles, one to do with a tattoo. We're going to try and remember this, right? Try and remember it off by heart. The first one was a tattoo, LA 2013. Second one was a painting, LA 2013. Third one is a sort of music festival, as I understand it. Hicksville, June 2013. As far as I understand it, this happened at Hicksville, right? So Depp had apparently combined alcohol and magic mushrooms, and apparently got angry when Amber's female friends hugged and touched her. So if you think about what happened in LA with a painting, it's sort of the same psychology, at least. It's the same thing of, I'm worried about your feelings towards female friends, and I'm worried about a female ex. Does that make sense? It's the same kind of psychology. And so Amber said that what allegedly happened was that he became angry when these female friends hugged and touched her, and he apparently grabbed a woman's wrist and threatened to hurt her. Apparently Amber said that he threw glasses at her, ripped her dress, and damaged the cabin they were staying in. And so I think there was like some debate. I think Amber said he trashed the cabin, and somebody else said all he did was he broke a light fitting or light fixture. But that Hicksville is the third kind of incident, right? So let's review. First one to do with the tattoo, second one a painting, third one Hicksville and that sort of cabin. Anyone know what the fourth one was? So now we're into 2014, and I think the timeline only goes as far as 2016. So we've got 3 in 2013 and also 3 in 2014. And the first one, anyone know where that was? Anyone know where that one was? Bria, good to see you here. Plane, that's right. Charles Bell says plane. Yeah, so that is the problem with the trial timeline. It needs to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it needs to keep you in the framework so that you know where the narrative is. That's what I'm trying to do with you guys. So anyway, the fourth of these 14 was the private plane. Wow, Bria says, I just got the kids to bed. Super long day and late night. I hope you're going to find this interesting, Bria. By the way, if you don't know, Bria's in France. So she's on the same time as I am. It's about half an hour to midnight. Okay, so the fourth incident of the 14 is now in the next year. It's 2014. It's also sort of summer-ish. It's May 2014. It was a private plane from Boston to LA. So quite a few of these incidents are in or around LA, if you'll notice. Probably at least half of these incidents are in LA. So apparently what happened, so once again, the allegation is that on the plane, Depp, according to Amber Heard, had been drinking heavily. He'd thrown objects at her in the plane, slapped her and kicked her in the back, causing her to fall over. He threw his boot at her on the floor and then passed out on the toilet. That's all related to that. Depp said that wasn't true, that he, if anything, he gave her a playful tap on the bottom with his foot. So she says he threw his boot at her on the floor. He says, I gave her a playful tap on the bottom with his foot. And then when she reacted badly, apparently he took a pillow to the toilet and slept there. So that's his story. Sharon, you say, I've got an amazing memory. No, not really. But thanks for that, Sharon. So the next incident, anyone know what that is? Also 2014. Anyone know what the fifth incident is? So the fifth incident happened in the Bahamas in August 2014. So it's June, about two to 3 months later, right? So here's the narrative. Johnny Depp was apparently detoxing from a painkiller dependency. So he had been, I guess, addicted to painkillers, and he was detoxing. I don't know whether that's a matter of fact. I would presume it is. But anyway, so he's detoxing from this on his private island. It would make sense to go to his private island to detox. And apparently during this detoxing phase, he apparently pushed her to the ground, slapped her, grabbed her by the hair, and kicked her door so hard it splintered. What you can kind of consider here is, when you detoxing, would that would that facilitate, or would that tend to lead to unusual feelings of irritation, aggravation, all that? Just consider that, that's all. Anyway, that is the scenario there. That's number 5. So let's go through them. First one, tattoo, right? In LA. Second one, painting in LA. Third one, Hicksville. Fourth one, the private plane, where it's this allegation that he, I think, kicked her in the back, I guess. Kicked her in the back. It's like, she says he kicked me in the back. He says I gave her a playful tap on the bottom with my foot, right? And then the fifth one is Bahamas, associated with detoxing. Are you guys with me? That's August 2014. Here's where it's going to start getting, when you try and remember it, it's going to start getting a little bit difficult, because he has a repeat one. Number 6 is also Los Angeles. So the third event in 2014 is also Los Angeles, right? So we've got the private plane, we've got the Bahamas in 2014, and the third event is also Los Angeles. So what happened there is basically, not much is really said here, that after he was violent towards her, he sent text messages, and so that's really the evidence. And in the text message, he referred to himself as a effing savage and a lunatic, right? So you've got to really ask the question, do text messages, is that any proof of anything, right? So that's one where you can definitely say, I'm not sure if that proves anything, right? And now we go to 2015, and guess how many incidents are in 2015? Anyone know how many incidents there were in 2015? Remember, all of this comes to an end in 2016. So the answer is, well, there are 2 incidents in 2016. There are, what was it, 5 incidents in 2015. So we've had 3 incidents in 2013, 3 incidents in 2014, 5 incidents in 2015, and allegedly, and then 2 incidents in the final year. And of course, remember, the final year is cut short because, well, it is cut short, right? Okay, so let's go to 2015. What do you think happens in 2015? Remembering their relationship. Not there yet, says, but his text messages followed up incidences. Yes, it does. High says, wasn't there one day they were with Marilyn Manson? Okay, so now we're dealing with a Tokyo hotel room, and Johnny was attending the premiere of The Lone Ranger, I think. Remember, he played the role, I think, of Tonto, right? And according to Amber, Depp apparently shoved and slapped Amber and grabbed her by the hair. And apparently Depp's children were right next door. So his children were like in the hotel room right next door. And Depp's defense was that he wouldn't have done that, because his children were there, he wouldn't have done that. So that was sort of his counter to that. So that's Japan, right? Japan hotel room dealing with the Lone Ranger. That's right at the beginning of the year, right? The Australia incident is the next incident. I don't know if that's what someone was saying. Anyway, so the very next incident, we're now at 8. So we're now basically past halfway through this timeline, right? We're now going into the last couple of them, but there are quite a few in 2015. So the 8th one is Australia. So let's try and go through what we remember. The first one is the tattoo. The second one, the painting. The third one, Hicksville. The fourth one, was it on the flight? The private flight. The fifth one, the Bahamas. The sixth one, just the text from LA. And the seventh one, Japan, right? The hotel room in Japan. Now we're at Australia. So this is also like a totally different country. Australia, this happened apparently in March 2015. So it's quite, if you want to try and remember these, you've got to remember there were 3 in 2013, 3 in 2014, 5 in 2015, and 2 more in 2016, right? Okay, so Australia, what happened over there, I think probably most of you have a pretty good idea. Let me put the ball in your court. Anyone know what happened in Australia? If it's buffering, I think just refresh. It's not buffering on my side. Thanks, Nisi. I'm doing my best. Anyone know what happened in Australia? I think it's quite simple if you paid attention to the trial. Joe Huck says that. Okay, it's not quite answering the question. That's it. Finger. Charles Bells, well done. Finger. The finger incident happened there. So basically, to summarize it, there were 3 days in Australia with, Fingergate. There were 3 days that they were in Australia filming Pirates of the Caribbean. And according to Amber's version of events, this was a particularly galling experience. It was particularly extreme. And she said that she was actually in fear for her life. So we're now, as I said, just past halfway through this timeline. It's the first time she kind of says, I actually was afraid for my life on this occasion. This is halfway through the whole thing. She says that she claims that Johnny assaulted her multiple times, and then she also says he severed his fingertip, and then also scrawled graffiti over the walls of this sort of private. Well, it's a home for hire, but it wasn't their home. This home that this mansion they were staying in Australia. And so there's been some debate who caused the fingertip to be severed. Was it Amber who threw a bottle? Was it Johnny who closed a door or had his finger poking through the door? Is it just something that happened in the murk of being high and drunk? I mean, you could actually make the argument that maybe both of them don't know, that when they looked again, they realized his finger wasn't there. No one really knows how it happened. But I'm not sure if I accept the argument that Johnny did it to himself. And I'm not sure I accept the argument that Amber did it to him either. It's to me just a little bit. To me, the finger thing simply shows the extreme level of dysfunction that both of the arguments were at that time. In any event, That was Australia in March 2015. You can see it's quite an extreme point. A body part is actually severed at this point. It's on the mirrors and the lampshades, yeah. So the interesting thing is this is happening in the middle of him shooting a movie. So it's like you're thinking, that spoke about in the closing arguments, they spoke about, Johnny just arrives late sometimes. It's not a big deal. Well, this was happening in the middle of filming Pirates of the Caribbean, as far as I understand it. Anyway, so that's, we've got four more incidents in 2015. Just see 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 incidents in 2015. So 2015, quite a lot seems to be happening. The next incident is in Los Angeles, which is definitely going to make it difficult to remember this because the Los Angeles incidents are sort of interchangeable. Anyway, so in this incident, Amber said that Depp hit her hard and repeatedly before trying to push her sister down the stairs. So Whitney was apparently a witness to this. And then in this particular incident, Amber actually hit Johnny, right? She said she hit him. He said she hit him. And this was something that stood out to me because I think there was a statement that Camille Vasquez said where she said, Amber will never admit to doing anything wrong. Well, she did admit to hitting him here. So I thought that was quite interesting. But so this was one of the first incidents where there's a witness that can sort of talk about what happened. But yeah, you kind of have this thing of that it's mutual, that something happens to her and something happens to him, right? You kind of get that sort of impression. And we're going to talk about, while we're a little bit past halfway now, we've got about 5 left. Let me ask you this question. If there was mutual abuse, does that mean Amber loses? In other words, if Amber hit Johnny, does that mean Amber loses? Let me ask you guys that. If there was mutual abuse, does that mean Amber loses? So just think about that. I'm not going to answer that question right now, but it's something to think about. So so that's LA 2015. That's basically what I think about as the stairway incident, right? The stairway incident number 9. Australia is the finger incident. Now we go to number 10. I see a couple of no's there. Number 10. Anyone know what happened after this? Anyone know what the next incident was? I'll give you a clue. It happened on a train. Okay, so number 10 happened in Southeast Asia, and as far as I know, they took a train from somewhere to Singapore. Does anyone know who? Yeah, the honeymoon. Does anyone know from where to where? It ended in Singapore. Do you know where it started from? No, that's not Amber's birthday. Orient Express, that's right. Ending at Singapore. Yeah, so it started from Bangkok, right? So I've been in Singapore, and I think they've got a photo at the Raffles Hotel. I've actually been there. It's quite a snazzy hotel. There's something known as the Singapore Sling. It's like if you go to Singapore, you've got to go to the Raffles Hotel and you've got to have a Singapore Sling. And I kind of did that when I was there. Anyway, so apparently they're on honeymoon, they're on a train, they're going from Bangkok to Singapore, and during this train trip, according to Amber, Depp hit her, pushed her against a wall, grasped her by the throat. She apparently wrote about this in her diary, and she said they'd fallen asleep, smashed together in desperate childlike, these are words from her diary, smashed together in desperate childlike anger, fear, and love, finally succumbing to exhaustion and ultimately unavoidable futility. You can just kind of get the idea that they were both kind of smashed. I actually once went on a rail journey with my girlfriend at the time called the Blue Train, and you had caviar and you had a bar and so on. And anyway, I remember an incident where I went back to our cabin, and while I was, in our cabin, she remained somewhere else. And anyway, long story short, she apparently drank quite a lot at the bar, and apparently the bar man propositioned her, and she later told me about it. As far as I know, nothing happened, but I sent her a complaint. So these things can happen on trains. There's nowhere to go. It's quite romantic. Some people may drink more than others, and that was my experience, not particularly pleasant. So apparently this happened to them, and she did record it in her diary, and yeah, so that's the 10th one. So let's try and go through the 10 of them, right? Let's try and remember the 10 of them. So as I go through it, try and go through it yourself in your mind. So the first one was in 2013, tattoo. Second one, painting, also 2013. Third one, Hicksville, also 2013. Then we go into 2014, the flight from Boston. From there, was there another one in LA, or was it Bahamas? Oh, the Bahamas. That's the fifth one, also 2014. Then there was one more in 2014, and that was also LA. What was that one that happened? Well, that was just text messages. Then there was Japan now we're going to 2015. After Japan, after Japan it was Australia, the finger incident. So the Japan thing was a hotel room just before the Lone Ranger. The next one was Australia, and then the 9th one was LA, the staircase incident, and then the 10th one was the one we've just done, the train trip. Now, try and make an effort to try and memorize this, because if you ever in a conversation, you can theoretically go through the entire timeline with someone, and you can show off your knowledge, and you can also show off the facts that we're talking about. We're talking about, although these are allegations, are nevertheless based in places in time, and they are little narratives dealing with all of these allegations. You might say, that one's very unlikely, that one doesn't make sense, that one I'm not sure. And so really that's what you want to do. So now we go on to the last 4. There are 4 left. 2 of them are in 2015 and the last 2, 2016. And we're not finished. So the 11th of these 14 is Los Angeles Thanksgiving 2015. So quite a few of them happen in Los Angeles. In fact, this should make it easier to remember, the last 4 all happen in LA. So this happens over Thanksgiving, and basically this is an allegation where Johnny apparently threw Amber around the room and threw a wine glass at her, and that's about it. There's not really much more than that. There's not much more to it than that. Thanksgiving, something apparently happened, right? Now we go into the 12th one, LA, December 2015. Amber claimed that Johnny threw a decanter at her in their penthouse, headbutted her, and pulled large chunks of her. So this is one that I think a lot of people remember. They remember the Australia one. Some of you may remember the train incident, and then others, on her honeymoon, and then you'll probably also remember this one, which I think one can call the broken bed incident. As far as I know, this wasn't her birthday. Her birthday was the next one, in the second last one. And so this one, I guess one can call the broken bed incident, or the hair pulling incident, I guess. And so in this particular one, apparently he headbutts her, and what I found really interesting was that the makeup artist, Iglesias, said that it looked like she'd been headbutted. And the makeup artist, the makeup artist could definitely have been a make or break witness. He could have said, no, I didn't see anything, or no, I didn't cover up any injuries, or I didn't need to use blood red lipstick or whatever. But anyway, so quite a lot happened here. He apparently headbutted her. He pulled large chunks of hair. There was also the damage to the bed. And what I thought was quite clever in the closing arguments from Rottenborn was he said, if that is a knife, well, Johnny admitted that he always carried a knife. So I thought that was quite interesting. By the way, I've put together a debunk of the whole idea that you could just take a little knife, a small little pen knife, it's a foldable multi-purpose knife, and you could make a splinter that size. I've put together a debunk of that, and I'll hopefully put it together by tomorrow, hopefully before the jury decide what's going on. Law and Number did say it was a knife, yeah. Not there. It says he had a lot of damage in the 90s in a hotel. I'm not really sure about that. It's for me a bit beyond the ambit. So anyway, let's just read this comment. Susan says, Johnny couldn't break with his boot. A carpenter lawyer proved it. Well, that's what I'm going to address. So you can decide whether you think my argument is pathetic, whether this litigation and woodwork expert is absolutely 100% right, or maybe True Crime Rocket Science can make a point in terms of that. I don't really like to make it that I'm debunking him, just that maybe we need to think about it a bit more critically, that's all. Okay, so basically that incident with the chunks of hair, that immediately preceded the James Corden's late show. That was in December 2015. So that's also something that's very much attached to the timeline, where you can say, absolutely, we know the date of that show, the same way you know the date of their honeymoon. Also, you know the date of when they were in this hotel room in Japan. All of that would be absolutely easy to prove or disprove. One thing that I thought was really interesting was when I saw Amber on the James Corden Late Show, I was like, wow, I can't see any sign. Like any sign whatsoever of what she's just gone through. In other words, I don't see any swelling to her mouth. I don't see any swelling anywhere. I don't see any injury. And I also thought she doesn't look traumatized. She doesn't look unhappy. She doesn't look fragile, none of those things. And I took that to mean she's actually an incredible actress, meaning if she was going through all that stuff and she was able to sublimate all of that, that is pretty incredible. You may not like her, you may not think she's honest or whatever, but I thought, wow, people think she's such a bad actress. Of course, you could say none of those injuries were that bad, but I tended to think that what the makeup artist said was definitely, I thought it was reliable. And the fact that she isn't friends with Amber anymore, to me, made it even more reliable, because if she was friends, you would think, well, I'm just saying this because of my friend, and you kind of got the idea that she was credible. That was my feeling. Let me just do a quick poll. Did you guys believe the makeup artist, Iglesias, what she said about what she saw? Did you guys believe her? Did you guys believe the makeup artist? Joe Huck, we are going to deal with the merits of the closing arguments. We're almost there. Just hold on. So Tara Leela Rose says no. I think no, that you don't believe her. SM Kovalinsky says yes, I did. Blue Flame says yes. So a couple of you did believe her. Sharon Lynn says yes. Debbie says absolutely not, if you're answering that question. So a couple of you believe her, and some of you don't. Jean Carroll says yes. Mrs. S says, I do not believe the makeup artist. Terry Dean also says no. Okay. Soft Reset says no reason to lie. Mrs. S says, I didn't find any of her witnesses credible. Okay. So we are now we've now dealt with let's call it the hair pulling incident. And now all the rest of them are Los Angeles, but these are now the last two. And what I just want you to think about is, you can think of it in two ways. The one way is you can say, I don't believe any of this. I think it's manufactured. It's a hoax. And so of these 14 incidents, it actually makes sense. If you wanted to make it as authentic as possible, it would make sense to have the things escalate, right? In other words, I'm trying to invent an abuse narrative. So I'm going to try and make it sort of follow the course that it would sort of naturally take, which is that it escalates, right? You could take that position, or you could say, if this is true, then it makes sense that it escalates the way that it does. So you can choose which version of that you want to take. But the point is, in this narrative, whichever your position, it does escalate. So now we're going to deal with the two last incidents, the two last allegations. Both of these are from LA. Both of these are in 2016, and they are 2 months apart. They're in two consecutive months, April and May. So this probably rings a bell. The April incident occurred on her 30th birthday, and you can imagine there's quite a lot going on, besides partying. It's like you need to show up, and there are other people there, and sometimes you can get disappointed. Remember, 30 is like a round number. So arguably a 30th birthday is more important than a 29th or a 31st, right? Anyway, the point is, and I actually didn't know this until I listened to the closing arguments. Apparently, Johnny heard bad news on that day. He heard some kind of news about his finances on that day. Did you guys also catch that? So earlier in the day, I think it was something like 9:30 in the morning. I think he had 9:30 at night. Anyway, as far as I understand, he heard really bad news that day, and then he seemed to disappear for 2 hours while this party was on. I think he showed up to the party at 11:30 at night. I could be wrong. I don't know whether this all happened in the morning, but anyway, and so the one bodyguard said, I think that he went home. And then the other bodyguard said that I think he went to his mother. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think the other bodyguard said he went to his mother. And then the question was, how do you know he went to his mother? And then he said, well, the other bodyguard told me. So if the one bodyguard said, no, well, he went home, and the other one said he went to his mother, but I found that out from the other bodyguard, it sort of neutralizes one another. Anyway, the point is, he arrived late for this birthday party. When he arrived, he was apparently drunk and on drugs. Now, in a situation like this, I don't think you can say there were no witnesses. I don't think you would, if your idea was to hoax this, if your idea was, I'm going to come up with a fake abuse narrative, I don't think you would include a birthday party where there are quite a few people present, because they've now got to be part of this hoax, right? So, it would be easier to just not include a day like that, because it would be difficult, because you've got all these people that have got to support your story. I'm just saying if you wanted to manufacture it. So anyway, apparently he arrives late to a birthday. It's a 30th birthday. He apparently arrives drunk and on drugs. And then after her friends left, that's quite critical. So they see that. And I think that's the birthday party where each one was supposed to say something, which is almost like a Thanksgiving version of a birthday party. Like, what's your favorite memory of Amber? Like, let's all thank Amber for being Amber, or whatever. But anyway, and I think, I don't know who said this. I don't know if it was Whitney or someone else said that Johnny said his favorite memory was that when she came in, I think, to audition, she sat on a sofa or something, and then she got up and left this perfect imprint on the sofa, and he didn't want anyone to sit there, so he could sort of keep the imprint. And obviously when she got up and walked off, he saw her from the back and thought, wow, she's stunning, or whatever. That was his thing. And I remember someone saying that was very awkward. Everyone thought that was a very awkward thing to say. I thought, not that it's great, but I thought it's not, isn't it just normal? Isn't that Johnny? Kind of thing. I could be wrong. Anyway, that's also the incident where feces were found on the couple's bed. So the next day, the day after her birthday, feces were found on the couple's bed. Now, this later became, a month later, the feces on their bed was bothering Johnny, like the same way the painting bothered him. I think he thought that someone did that on purpose, and it could be one of three things. It could be Amber did it, it could be Johnny did it, or it could be the dog did it. And it could also be, of those, if you take all of those three together, you could say theoretically it wasn't done intentionally by anyone. It could be someone who was incontinent, but it's like this idea that someone did it on purpose to spite me, right? Which to me feels a bit like paranoia. That's just what I think. I don't know. Sharon says Johnny's side of the bed. I think that is tends to be, I don't know. I think that's makes you wonder. Does make you wonder. On the one hand, I've just watched a series called The White Lotus. I'm probably not going to give you the spoiler to that, but it involves poop. And, this idea that someone pooping is absolutely unheard of. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I've got to say, I've got a dog, right? And dogs do poop. And if you're having a big party, they're even more likely to poop. So, dogs do that certainly more than people do. Susan says, Amber admitted it was a prank gone wrong. Okay. So anyway, at this birthday party, after her friends left, apparently he threw a Magnum champagne bottle at her, which missed, smashed glasses, grabbed her hair, and then the next day the feces were found. And that then brings us to the very last one. So you can see that everything that's happening here, whether the feces are sort of were deliberate, were done by Amber or not, the fact that they're these feces, you can see how extreme things are getting. Things that have gotten out of hand. Things are ugly, right? And now we come to the 14th and final incident. LA, May 2016, and this is where Johnny threw a phone at Amber and apparently smashed items, kicked a hole in the door at their apartment. And I think this was when two of her friends called 911, Io and Rocky, and about 48 hours after this incident, she applied for the dissolution of her marriage and for a domestic restraining order. And I think that's quite significant, is that she asked for the marriage to end, not him. I thought that was quite significant. And also, at the time that she applies, she's actually injured. So you can argue that she did like a Fight Club thing and she hit herself and then she went to have her marriage annulled, or she was injured and under those circumstances with things escalating, applied for this. Now, obviously, what I'm giving you here and what I've given you here is a sanitized version. It's taken less than an hour to go through 14 incidents. There's obviously a lot more detail here, right? So are you guys ready to take it from the top? See how many you can remember. I must say the last 6 are definitely difficult to remember because it's sort of quite murky. But anyway, yeah, they are. The first one, you remember what the first one was? The tattoo incident, Los Angeles, early 2013. The second one, the painting incident, where he got paranoid about, was she still seeing her ex-partner, what's her name? Van Ree. That was in LA in 2013. The next one was in Hicksville in June, also 2013, right? Then the fourth one was on the airplane. The next one was the Bahamas. What is after the Bahamas? LA, the text, then Japan, then Australia, then the stairway incident, right? And that brings us to Southeast Asia. That's number 10. On the train, then Thanksgiving. Again, that's kind of one that just sort of is difficult to remember because of the vagueness of it. Certainly the way I've portrayed it here. Then the next one, also Los Angeles, but that was the headbutting one that preceded the Late Show thing. So I guess you can call that the headbutt incident. Then April was the birthday, and then the final one was the restraining, or the one leading to the restraining order, and I think calling 911, right? Amber didn't call 911, Io did, and then Rocky did as well. So, and I think when the police came, she didn't want to press charges, kind of thing. Okay, so as it become a bit clearer what these 14 separate incidents were, and are you going to be able to sort of remember them? Do you think you're going to be able to remember them? If you can't, I'm going to give you a link. It's a source that I've used. Someone said I've got a good memory. I've been using that source. And of these 14 incidents at the UK trial, there were 2 that the judge felt were possibly not true or unsubstantiated. The one was the texts from 2014, where he said, I don't know if the texts prove anything. So he didn't believe that. And he also didn't believe, what is the other one that he didn't believe? The Thanksgiving incident in 2015, he also said he wasn't sure if it just proved that anything happened. So 2 of these 14 he felt were, I won't say not credible, but not demonstrably true. And he just not found not proved, put it that way. Are you guys ready to now go to the highlights of the closing arguments? So I just want to have a look here. I see the numbers have changed a little bit. Most of you are saying there are 12 incidents. Then it's tied between 14 and 3. That's pretty frightening in a way. Almost, so more than a third of you think that there were 2 or 3 incidents. Remember, the question isn't how many incidents were there. The question is how many separate incidents were discussed during the trial. That's the question. I'm not saying there were 14 assaults. I'm saying how many separate incidents were brought up, and the answer is 14. And I do think that was a weakness in the from the defendant's counsel, from Rottenborn and what's her name, Breederhoff, that I think that number should have been made explicit. That we're not talking about 1 or 2, right? You need to, and also if you're going through the narrative, say this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't just, otherwise your jury gets lost, and like you guys would also get lost if I didn't do it that way. P. Willis says Amber's life trajectory is still hopeful. Okay, a little bit of sarcasm there. Okay, Tony. Okay. Imochiro, Depp thinks being called one eye is abuse. So we have all been abused, and so is Amber. Okay, Timmy, can I put you down? Is there's someone here who said they missed the closing arguments. Who was that? I can't actually find your comment. Not letting me go all the way to the top. Did any of you here who are here right now, did any of you miss the closing arguments? Once he says 14 was mentioned in court, that is how I knew. But my point is, in the closing arguments, it was especially important to emphasize that and to also deal with it as a narrative in numerical order. I suppose you could have an argument that could be particularly boring, to say number 1, blah 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 blah, number 2, so I suppose you could do that. You could make that argument. Okay, do you guys want to hear the highlights from the closing arguments, the notes that I made? Sharon Butler, good to see you here. Nisi says, Law and Crime is better to watch than court TV. Okay, so if you missed the closing arguments, basically they started with a plaintiff side. So Camille Vasquez kind of started, and that was followed by Mr. Chu, right? So you had one member of the plaintiff's counsel doing his thing. Then the next one, Then Rottenborn had his chance, and I think by the time, is her name Breederhoff, by the time she spoke, I think it was already afternoon. So at a rough guess, each closing took around about an hour, just being very rough about it. So these are some of the highlights that I jotted down. Camille Vasquez said, the mountain of evidence is simply not there. She also said, you either believe all of it or you believe none of it. I thought that was quite a clever statement to make, but I also think it is, personally, I think it's quite misleading, because even if you say the mountain of evidence is not there, there doesn't have to be a mountain, because just one incident that you say, I think that may have happened. Well, if you think that, then Amber wins. So, and I also think it's not a case that you either believe all of it or you believe none of it. You can believe all of it, or you can believe most of it, or you can believe half of it, or you can believe some of it, and it's still relevant, right? So it's not an all or nothing scenario. And the fact that she's telling them that, to me, was something that I definitely took note of. Did you guys notice that? Did you guys notice her saying that? Okay. So that was the first thing that I thought stood out. The other thing that I thought was quite clever was she said something about, how did she say it? She said something like, this is about whether you believe Amber Heard or Johnny. And then she kind of said it like this. I think she said it something like this. This isn't about whether you believe Amber Heard or whether you believe Johnny. She said, this is about whether you believe Amber Heard or Johnny. And then she listed, like, I don't know how many people it was, 10 or 20 people. So she kind of was like saying, Amber's voice stands alone. It's only her making these claims. And it's Johnny plus all of these supporters, all of these people that stuck up for him, stood up for him, supported him, who told the same story that he did. So she's kind of saying, this is about whether you believe Amber or Johnny and this person and that person and that person and that person and that person. And I don't know, she may have rattled off 10 or 20 names. And I thought that was quite an interesting argument, but in my mind, I just thought, is this a popularity contest? So it's like, if she said something, whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. If somebody else said something and 20 other people said that, well, then that's what matters. In other words, if someone just said, if there are enough people saying the same thing, that makes it true. Is that true? Let me ask you guys that question. If a lot of people say the same thing, does that automatically make it factual? Does it make it true? If you just have lots of people saying something, the same thing, does that elevate it to truth? Okay, so I'm glad that some of you said no, because if you said yes, that would be a problem. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is it's not a popularity contest. It's not about, put it this way, it shouldn't be about, from the jury's perspective, I like Johnny, so he's innocent, or I like Amber, so she's innocent. It should be, this is what the evidence seems to show, and this is what likely happened, and this is what the law says, right? I obviously understand that outside the court, that's totally what's been going on. It's totally a popularity contest, and Johnny's won that. Johnny's won the popularity contest. The question is, and people have been saying this isn't the UK, meaning Johnny's very popular in America, so he's going to win the popularity contest, and that's how he's going to win this case. Is that the right thing? Is that the right thing to happen, right? The other thing that I thought was quite well done from Vasquez was she said, you have come to know the real Johnny Depp. And I thought that's quite a nice angle to take, is like, at last you've gotten to see who he really is. But of course, in a weird way, it's almost an inversion of the narrative, because if you just think of it where you make your mind a blank canvas and you imagine you didn't watch any of the trial and you didn't know any of this, and it's not about Johnny's guilty or Amber's guilty, none of that. But you heard certain things that he said, you saw certain things that he texted, you saw certain videos. Now you are getting to see a different side to him. You're also seeing a different side to her. And that's been the big magnet to this case is, wow, we're getting to see these people warts and all. And it's like reality TV on steroids, right? Plus you've got the leverage of social media that makes it this huge extravaganza of let's all jump in and enjoy the spectacle. And, but when she said, you've come to know the real Johnny, she wasn't saying that. She was kind of controlling the narrative by saying to the jury, you've gotten to know the real Johnny Depp, the charming Johnny, the vulnerable Johnny, and everything was sort of sketched in a positive way. Almost like I thought she was kind of like mind something the jury by saying, as a result of seeing all of this, you've seen the real Johnny, and he's this fantastic person. He's all of these things. Meanwhile, you've also gotten to, this was her argument, you've also gotten to know the real Amber. And then she actually used the word scary after that. She said, you have now come to know the real Amber Heard. Scary. And I thought, this sounds like a teenager talking. This doesn't sound like closing arguments. This sounds like a teenager talking about someone in high school that you don't like for whatever reason. That's hardly an argument, right? That's hardly a rational argument. I do think it was quite an effective argument, because you can say, you've seen the real Johnny Depp and he's wonderful, and you've seen him in court. He's sensitive, he's warm, he's kind, he was nice to us. That's the real Johnny Depp. And you've also come to know the real Amber Heard, but of course that's the Amber that you see in terms of their version of events. She lies and all that. She says scary, and then didn't I have another page dealing with Vasquez? Maybe not. I thought she said a lot about lies, that Amber lies. Maybe it was, I think she said, I'm not 100% sure, you guys can set me straight, I'm not 100% sure if Chu said this or Vasquez, but this comes from the closing arguments. Miss Heard lies. She lies all the time. Miss Heard is condemned by her own words. I thought that was quite interesting. In other words, saying that in her open op-ed, she's condemned herself, and it's kind of like obvious, right? Sharon Lynn Tate says, I believe Kate Moss. I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been wanting to say something about Kate Moss. To me, Kate Moss's testimony is emblematic of the entire trial. This is my opinion. What I mean is, just follow me when I say this, right? There was a moment where Amber said she felt something or did something because she just remembered that Johnny tried to push Kate Moss down the stairs, right? And then there was a moment where Chu kind of went like this, like, we've got her. Yes, great. And it was this big moment, this big celebration, this big gotcha, right? And a lot of the YouTube channels caught up on that. And, he turns around and he sort of goes like this. Yes, we got her now. We got her on that. And then in the media, there was this big kind of moment. Kate Moss is going to be testifying, right? And it felt like, wow, this is huge. This is this big moment. And I don't think she spoke more than 3 minutes. And it was very to sort of over before it sort of began. She sort of came on. She said, I was in a relationship with him. It rained. I slipped down the stairs. Johnny ran to help me, and then it was over. Then Rottenborn, I think, came up and he said, no questions, Your Honor, and it was over. And that to me was so emblematic of this whole trial, is like everything is so overblown, everything is so exaggerated, everything is so crazy, and it's like much ado about nothing. The entire thing for me has been like much ado about nothing. The op-ed, when you read it and you say this led to a defamation lawsuit for $50 million, just that to me feels like much ado about nothing. Anyway, so now we go on to Chu. What Chu said is there's a world of difference between having a substance abuse problem and being a physical abuser. Those were his words. I'm going to read that again. He says, there's a world of difference between having a substance abuse problem and being a physical abuser. What do you think of that? So I'm actually asking you to think about those words and think to yourself, is that true? What do you guys say? Spirit of 1776 says yes. Do you guys agree with that? There is a world of difference between having a substance abuse problem and being a physical abuser. Spirit of 1776 says goes together. Someone's very upset, says this is not much ado about nothing. Okay. Maybe it's just because sorry that I'm laughing, but I deal with murders, criminal cases, and I've definitely struggled to take a lot of this stuff seriously, and I feel like, although I have taken it seriously, I feel like no one else has. It's all been a big joke and mocking and undermining, and I haven't thought that that's a very good. Anyway, hand in hand. Sasha, yeah. Nisi says the two go together. Blue Jay says, I agree, much ado about nothing. Tony Martinez says, yes, there's a big difference. So for those of you who know my channel and you know some of the cases we talked about, I want to read those words again, and then I'm going to append to it something, and then think what you think about that. I'm just being practical about it, right? So if you say, there's a world of difference between having a substance abuse problem and being a physical abuser, then what I append to that is I say, think about Summer Wells. Think about the parents of Summer Wells and that statement. And what I'm talking about is this idea of substance abuse is absolutely got nothing to do with any other kind of abuse, right? And I'm simply saying, think about what you know in terms of the Summer Wells case. And so Laura Van Staden says the two do not go together. My response is, this is my personal opinion, is if you say someone's got a substance abuse problem, what are you saying? Are you saying they drink 2 glasses of wine a day or a week? Or are you saying this is a very serious substance abuse problem, right? This person is barely functional. So I think if you talk about a serious substance abuse problem and physical abuse, do they tend to go hand in hand? And I think you could probably make a statistical, there's a statistical relationship where you could say, you could find out certain, in terms of cases of abuse, and in terms of that, whether or not alcohol plays a role in that. If you think that that is totally unscientific, here's another example that's just totally logical. Are any car accidents caused by drunk driving? So what happens in car accidents? People die, people get injured, things get damaged, right? And is there a relationship between that and somebody being drunk? And you could say, not always. Sometimes there are car accidents when people aren't drunk. The question is there sometimes a relationship between people who are drunk and car accidents? And the answer is definitely. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there is that relationship. Not every single time, but often enough for it to be almost a cliche, right? That's why there are laws against drunk driving, right? And so to say there's a world of difference between having a substance abuse problem and being a physical abuser, I don't know if there's a world of difference. You've got to quantify. We're talking about how much substance abuse are we talking about? And I think if you're going to take that question, you've got to apply it to Johnny Depp, and you've got to say, does Johnny Depp have a substance abuse problem? And if you say yes, and I don't know why he'd be bringing this up if that's not what's being thought about. I don't know why he would bring it up if it's irrelevant. But if you say, does Johnny have a substance abuse problem? Then the next question is, okay, so if you say he does, is it quite serious, right? So let me ask you guys, let's just get a sense of where we are with you guys. First question, yes or no, do you think Johnny has a substance abuse problem? Do you think this trial has brought that to light, shown that, demonstrated it, provided examples of that? And you can also say maybe he had it in that year or in that month. So it also includes, did he have a substance abuse problem at one point? So trying to answer the question, so what do you say? Does he have a substance abuse problem or not? So a couple of you say yes. I think you've got to also be specific and say what substances, but let's just keep it general. So so if I haven't seen any no's, let's see if there are any no's. He does, but he has admitted that. Correlation doesn't equal causation. Yeah, well, you're making a point, okay. Tony Martinez says, of course he's an addict, okay. Someone says, for sure. Sashia Rogers says, Howard Stern spoke on that 10 years back on his radio show, okay. Okay, so the next question is, if he does have a substance abuse problem, do you think it's serious? Let's get your answer here. Do you think his substance abuse is serious, yes or no? Tara says he's sober now. Sharon says yes. Robbie Robbins says yes. Bruce Thompson says yes. Someone's got a very funny avatar, says he's not just a substance abuser, he's okay. Mrs. S says Amber has a substance abuse problem too. That's quite a good point. I think in some of the literature I saw, I don't know if it was a doctor, but someone said that I think she admitted being addicted to cocaine. So that's a fair point. I also think what is a fair point is that at some level they accepted one another's interest in and use of certain substances. Does that make sense? In other words, if she loves him and he loves her and they do certain things regularly, it likely means that they both do some of the same things regularly. They've got the same approach, attitude, interest, enjoyment of the same thing. Is that fair to say? If you accept that, can you also then say one of them might feel that's a bit going over the line of what I want to do, right? Like, I like doing that and I like doing that, but that's taken a bit further, right? Someone says, watch them be together again next month. Can you imagine if that did happen? Then it really would be much ado about nothing, wouldn't it? Can you imagine if someone came to them with an offer and they said, listen, Hollywood's not interested in giving either of you a movie anymore, but we'll make a movie about your life. So in other words, we need you guys to act the movie of the Depp versus her trial, but like all the things you're talking about, we need you to actually act the thing. And you both need to act in this movie, and then they fall in love again, acting in their own movie about themselves. Can you imagine that? And it becomes this movie and becomes this global blockbuster because everyone's watched it. I'm just saying, can you imagine something like that happening? And it makes also a lot of money, kind of thing. Muffin Top, good to see you. So yeah, so we kind of gone from did he have a serious abuse problem? There's a point I wanted to make that just goes to the logical next thing, and I've kind of lost it because I went down a tangent. But yeah, I guess it's if the level of substance abuse is really chronic, then does that mean there's not going to be physical abuse? I think the other side that is also really important is, let me ask this question. Did Johnny, so whether or not you say he's got an abuse problem, did Johnny say that he's got an abuse problem? I'm talking about substance abuse. Did Johnny say that he's in some way, direct or indirectly, did he acknowledge that he had a problem with or that he consumed stuff to excess? So that's that page done. Okay, so something else that was mentioned, I think it was by Camille Vasquez, was no one has come out of the woodwork to say me too in terms of Amber Heard. I also thought that was a very strong statement in a way, but it's also playing into the whole thing of, is this a popularity contest? But she made the statement, no one has come out of the woodwork to say me too. And I've got to say, that was what I observed. I was like, where's Me Too? Me Too didn't show up. What's going on here, right? And in terms of that, I want to read a comment. This is not something I said. It's something that someone said to me, and I thought it was just interesting. So don't shoot the messenger. It's quite a political message. But this was just something that someone said that I thought was quite interesting, and it deals with Me Too. This is what she wrote. I'm just quoting from a message. Axie, good to see you. Someone says, yes, he admitted that it made him a monster. Nisi just asked, please be respectful in chat. Thanks, Nisi. So this was the comment posted. I think it was earlier today, 9 hours ago, in fact. This is the comment that I didn't, this is not me saying this. This is just what somebody said. And I just want you guys to think about it. I was just thinking about yesterday's live and this talk about whether #MeToo showed up for Heard. It didn't, but if Depp wins, we'll hear a lot in future years. But the op-ed was written at a time, not only during Trump, but when Weinstein was in the news and Hollywood was doing I really care about this issue and we're going to do better moment. Do you remember that there was this time where Hollywood was really caught up in the Me Too thing as well? Hollywood seemed to really care about it, right? And this person goes on to say, this is not uncommon for Hollywood stars and others, anti-war, climate, anti-racism, LED lights, veganism, equal pay, whatever the issue of the day is. So it's kind of like everyone gets very excited about something and then it moves on and no one really cares about it. And so I think a valid question to ask is Me Too entirely political? Is Me Too a sort of here today, gone tomorrow thing? Is Me Too one swallow doesn't make a summer? Is Me Too just this sort of leaves blowing in the wind and it's not really real? Was Me Too just a sort of anti-Trump campaign, anti-Trump politics of the time? I'm asking the question. I don't know what the answer is. In other words, was Me Too something that was just a lot of hot air and it actually isn't anything? Someone else says Epstein happened. Nisi says absolutely political. In other words, that politics in a way is entirely hot air. It's basically saying, what do you want to hear? What is important for you to hear right now? Okay, I'm going to say these words that you need to hear right now, and then that's all I'm going to do, just say the words. Next year, I'm going to say other words, and then that's going to make you happy. The year after that, I'm going to say other words, which kind of makes you wonder, is anything real if things are just words, right? And I think that is the problem with politics at the moment, is that that's what it feels like. Everything is just words. Is a court case just words? And if you say the right words, then things happen. It's got nothing to do with truth or reality or evidence or scientific fact. When we did the Chris Watts case, it was this thing about you say certain words and then you're thriving. But maybe you're not thriving. But no, if you say these words, you will thrive and money will come to you and health will just suddenly flow out of that. And so it's almost like abracadabra. It's almost like this literal thing of, if I say words, like a secret, if I say words, I'm casting a spell over the world and then that becomes reality. I hate to break it to you, but saying words doesn't make something reality. In certain ways, I guess you can argue that it does. Like if you're an actor, you act the words and then you get the part, I guess. In other instances, you can tell someone, I love you, and then it makes it real. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating, not in the saying. I don't know if you guys follow that. Anyway, so this person goes on to say, this is not uncommon for Hollywood stars and others, whatever the issue of the day is. They're pretty good at standing up at award shows at the right moment and giving a round of applause. But as Amber discovered and described in her op-ed, Hollywood players are extremely controlled and everything is always about brand, image, and approval. Susan Sarandon's little anti-war gesture at the Oscars sometime around 2003, 2004 was particularly cringy, in my humble opinion. I actually don't know what she's referring to there. I've got a very sort of vague idea. She says, as per the cooling of Me Too post-Trump, yes, I agree. Honestly, remember that Biden won and took office during the pandemic, and shortly after, so much BLM highlighted during lockdown. As Roz Chess says, issues of 2021, plastic straws, who cares? We're all utterly fatigued on all fronts, and our only blessings are finding the gratitude to live our precious lives offline. I thought this is quite a powerful comment. I feel like, we said earlier, this is much ado about nothing, but I sort of feel like we are so exhausted by everything that's been taking place, and we get caught up and we get whipped up in a frenzy, and we all care about it so much. only to not care about it at all when the next frenzy comes up. And it really does beg the question, are we sentient beings? Are we very sensitive beings? Are we very conscientious creatures? Because we seem to care so much about something and then we've completely forgotten about it the next moment. We've completely forgotten about it. We've forgotten about it so much that it's not even that we care about it. We don't even remember it. And so it makes you wonder kind of about our own sincerity and our own ability to actually care about something. Are we capable of caring, or have we become so narcissistic that we only care about what we care about when we care about it? And then we move on to care about something else. In other words, we only care about what we care about. We don't care about something else or someone else. We care about what we care about. Does that make sense? So anyway, I thought this is a great comment. So thank you for that. Tammy says, this civil case would have happened with or without the publicity. I'm just trying to find the comment here. And I believe it matters to the people involved. It is not quite much to do about nothing to them, I think. Well, Tammy, that's a great comment. I don't want to sound condescending and I don't want to sound insensitive. I'm the first person as a true crime author of over 100 books to say that when a lot of people pay attention to something, it's resonating with something. It's resonating about something, and that's not unimportant, right? So please accept that from what I'm trying to say. Nevertheless, I think you will agree that, by the way, one of the lawyers actually did say, what did she say? Let's just go through what I wrote down here. Anyway, I can't quite find it in my notes. I will go through it in a moment. But she basically said that within the context of what she was saying, we've wasted 6 weeks of your time. In other words, if you find one of these incidents is true, one of the 14, so there are a couple of tests to it, but one of them is, if you find one of them is true, we've kind of wasted 6 weeks of your time. That is what she said, a lawyer. So that's obviously how she saw it. So what I want to say is, in terms of it's resonating, a thought I had, and I was thinking about it, I went mountain biking earlier today, and I was thinking, not trying to think about stuff, but something just sort of floated to the surface. And I had this thought that I'm starting to lose it. As I'm trying to grab hold of it, it fizzles away. But I had this thought. So, where you say it's not much to do about nothing to these people, it matters to a lot of people. Something that I think is worth considering, and I'm saying this pre-verdict. I don't know what the verdict is. I know what I think the verdict should be. But the thing that I thought was, this thing that's resonating with a lot of people, and it's a question I'm asking you guys, isn't it people that are caught up in a fairy tale? People that are caught up in a fairy tale of sentimentality, people that are caught up in a fairy tale of popular culture, right? The fairy tale is not encapsulated, but it is represented by, in this case, Johnny Depp. Thanks a lot, Rhonda. Right, the fairy tale of innocence, I guess. The fairy tale of being quirky. The fairy tale of the whole cultural apparatus that is surrounded by movies and Hollywood and all that kind of thing. And Amber's, although she's part of it, because she's relatively new to it, it's almost like she's attacking it. It's almost like she's an unknown antagonist. It's almost like she's spoiling all the fun. In other words, because his star is really, really big and hers is tiny. And so, I mean, I didn't even know that I'd seen Amber Heard in a movie until this trial. It was like, oh, Aquaman, oh, then I do know who she is. So, in other words, Johnny Depp is like, we knew Johnny Depp through all those movies. Quite a long time ago, I said, I don't know how many Johnny Depp movies I've seen that I really like, but there are quite a few. Chocolat, I really liked. Edward Scissorhands was another one. But the point is, he's emblematic of this whole fictional fantasy world that has caught up a lot of people. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean anything, but in the context of a trial, it should be irrelevant. It should be, none of that matters in terms of all the celebrity stuff should be irrelevant, and it should come down to, here's a human being who said and did this, here's another human being who said and did this. That's the end of the story. The law, I'm talking about Lady Justice with the blindfold on and weighing the scales. She shouldn't care about how handsome John is and that what a great role he played in Pirates of the Caribbean, and that Amber didn't have sexual chemistry with Jason Momoa. She shouldn't care about that. Lady Justice should care about, did this particular incident happen, yes or no? That's it. Not because Johnny is such a charming guy, it likely didn't happen. Did it happen, yes or no? What is the evidence that supports it? What's the evidence that doesn't? Do you follow what I'm saying? And so while I was riding my bicycle, I was thinking, is this resonating with a lot of people because it's reminding them of their fairy tale in terms of American culture, a beloved hero, and that they want to defend their hero because that fairy tale, they're invested in that fairy tale. They've watched a lot of movies. They've grown up with certain things. And I remember at the beginning of today's trial, there were lots of people standing at the gate, like, on the road outside the court in Virginia. And I think it was Law and Crime providing a feed. This was about half an hour before today's session started. And you just got a very clear look at these people who are the most interested in what's going on. And it was people of all shapes and sizes, people from all walks of life, all sorts of people. And it was just really interesting looking at them. Most of the time they are the ones in chat, or you don't really see their faces. But yeah, you can see all of them standing with their cell phones. Every time a sort of a black pickup passes by, they all cheer. They don't know who's in the pickup, and it's not Johnny Depp because he drives a different vehicle with his window down. Every time everyone cheers. Then eventually he comes through, and it's the biggest moment, and they sort of jump up and down, and they're giddy with excitement. And I saw that. And then after that, I sort of went for a mountain bike ride, and I was thinking, is this someone's fairy tale? And is the verdict going to alter someone's fairy tale? Is the verdict going to kind of be a nightmare? Is the verdict going to be, for some people, America's justice system doesn't work, and just, all of that. If Johnny Depp is found guilty, America's justice system doesn't work, because 99% of the internet feels that way, right? In other words, because everyone says that that's reality, and what the jury says doesn't mean anything. So I was just wondering, is this going to be a fairy tale that goes poof, in full view of sort of everyone who's been watching, the millions who've been watching? It's a question. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the verdict is. As I say, I've got an opinion that not too many people want to hear, but we're about to hear it. Terry says, some people just have a basic need for drama, so they create it if none appears naturally. My mother is like that. Okay. Reality will be a hard blow, yes. So I think no matter what happens, what the jury decide will be a kind of reality check, because once they vote, once they announce their verdict, that becomes legal reality. You can maybe kick against it by appealing, but it nevertheless becomes, so it's going to be either a nightmare for Amber or it's going to be a nightmare for Johnny. It's possible that they may come out of it in sort of a mixed way. I somehow doubt that. I don't think it's going to be this sort of iffy thing. Somebody said Johnny should be given $1 and Amber should be given $1. I don't agree with that. I don't think this is a case that that they're equally guilty or equally innocent. I don't see it that way. Someone says, I just feel sorry for celebs' kids. Okay. Okay, so now we've dealt with Chu. There's just one more thing. Just one more thing I want to just bring up before we go on to Rottenborn. He said, he was talking about the op-ed being defamatory, and he mentioned certain things. And you guys, I took you guys through the op-ed yesterday. This was before the closing arguments. The op-ed's really important, and so are those 14 allegations, right? That's basically the bottom line of what this trial's about. The op-ed, and then those allegations. And then there's a third dimension to it, and I might do it in a separate live stream. There's just not really time to do it today. But it's the countersuit, which is the 3 articles which I've sourced. I've actually found them on the Daily Mail, not the redacted articles, but the full articles. And I might do that in another live. I'll probably do that following the verdict, so that we sort of touch on all 3, the op-ed, the allegations, and then the countersuit related statements. All 3 of them come from the Daily Mail. All 3 of them come from 2020. I don't know if you know, the trial took place in July 2020. These 3 apparently, allegedly defamatory articles came out in the run-up to that. But what I thought was quite interesting from Chu was this idea that the op-ed is defamatory, and then it's also, no, the tweets are defamatory. So saying, okay, now I've put this article in a tweet, that's defamatory. And to me, it just feels like shifting the goalposts. Are you saying that the op-ed is defamatory, or are you saying that the tweets are defamatory? Because you can't really say both. If you say, well, if you make this kind of argument where you say, I wrote the article, then I tweeted it. I'm a journalist myself. I write books and I tweet them. It's like to kind of like say that's, I don't know. It's I just find it a bit odd. Like, so is the tweet defamatory when the tweet does nothing more, doesn't add anything more to what the op-ed does? It's not like she says anything extra. So again, it's like, wow, my feeling was just, wow, are you grasping at straws? Now we're going to tweets, and the tweets, there's really nothing in them. Anyway, so that was part of his argument. Now we go on to Rottenborn, and I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I thought of the 4 people who spoke, I thought he was the most effective. There was a little period where I thought I was losing interest. It was sort of at about the 75% way through it. And that wasn't very good. I mean, I was losing interest, but I thought his opening was excellent. I didn't think his closing was that strong, but I'm going to just read to you. It just felt effective and powerful and well written. So he started off saying the following. He said, Depp's burden of proof is that if even on one occasion that one of these incidents occurred, Amber wins, right? He said the burden of proof is on Johnny Depp to prove his case. He carries the burden, not Amber. And if he fails with that burden in even one instance, he loses, right? Thanks, Nisi. Thanks for that. The other thing that I thought was such a great opening was he burdens the jury, he burdens this whole case. And kudos to someone who said this isn't much ado about nothing. In terms of this, I agree, it is very significant, it's very important. What I mean is, Rottenborn says, think about the message you're giving to every victim. And in that sense, this is a singularly seminal case, right? And so that's how he sort of opened. He did it a lot better than I've done it. And then he says the following. He says, but within the context of if you think of the message you're sending to every victim, he praises it with that, and then he says the following. If you didn't take pictures, it didn't happen. If you did take pictures, they're fake. If you didn't seek medical treatment, you weren't injured. If you didn't tell your friends, you're lying. If you did tell your friends, they're in part of the hoax. I thought that was such a strong way of opening this. He says, if you do everything you can to help your spouse rid himself of substances that change him into an abusive, rage-filled monster, you're a nag. If you decide enough is enough and you leave, you're a gold digger. I thought that was a very, very, very powerful opening because almost everything Amber has offered has been criticized like this way and that way. So I'm going to read this again. If you didn't take pictures, it didn't happen. If you did take pictures, they're fake. If you didn't seek medical treatment, you weren't injured. If you didn't tell your friends, you're lying. If you did tell your friends, they're part of a hoax. If you do everything you can to help your spouse rid himself of substances that change him into an abusive, rage-filled monster, you're a nag. If you decide enough is enough and you leave, you're a gold digger. Now, I spoke to someone, I don't want to say who it was, but it's someone I know quite well, and I spoke to this person about her experience, and I asked her, did you ever go to the police? No, I asked her, did you ever seek medical treatment? And she said, no. I said, did you ever go to the police about what happened? She said, she went twice. She said the first time she got as far as the outside of the police station, and then she didn't take it further than that. And the second time, she did take it further, and that was the death knell of the relationship. So I know someone personally that also never sought medical treatment and also basically never saw the police until it was done and dusted. So I don't think the arguments that were made carry that much merit. The whole nature of relationships are that they are amorphous, they change, there are layers to it. There are times, or haven't you been in relationships where you are absolutely certain you are done, but then you continue to try, you fall in love again, there's a bit of a cycle, maybe you're just too lazy or too depressed or too helpless to leave. And then things just somehow improve. There's a lot of complexity going on. There are outside influences that change. And I think a big part of what creates this difficult dichotomy is when there's abuse in your backstory and there's abuse in your partner's backstory. Because in a weird way, you feel like you're resolving deep-seated crap from your past, and you think this is the way to resolve it within your marriage, and it's not, but it feels like you should be. There's something that feels familiar about it, but actually not in a good way, right? Actually says, Nick, you appear to have made up your mind. This was a good speech, clever, but what does that really say about the facts? Okay. Tammy says the pics didn't align with the narrative that she was telling the jury about the abuse she was receiving, and she would have looked away more beaten up than she did. Just look at Rihanna. Someone said, I think it was Rottenborn, he said, if this was makeup, then why not just make it worse? Why make the makeup sort of iffy? Why not like really, make it like intense? Why is it sort of iffy like that, right? Anyway, I see some people criticizing me just by, so I'm just going to stick to the brief here. Rottenborn also spoke about global humiliation, basically saying if you do this, if you do that, and ultimately you're going to suffer global humiliation. I think that's exactly what Amber Heard has suffered. I think Johnny Depp has been elevated and buoyed and celebrated, and there's been outpourings of love and affection and support, right? There's been incredible reinforcement and just enjoying him and I don't know. And then it's been the opposite with her. She's been humiliated. She's been isolated. She's been ostracized in a way. And anyway, part of Rottenborn's opening was he said, he was talking about the plaintiff's counsel saying, if you do this, then that, if you do that, then that. And then he says, they want, meaning the plaintiff's counsel, they want to get the jury to accept that. And I thought this was just a clever way of kind of poking the jury, almost like snapping them awake. He said, they're trying to get the jury to be an accomplice too. So basically, the whole thing that he was saying, think about the message to every victim. And then he was saying, if you don't take pictures, it didn't happen, all that. Then he ends off saying, they are trying to get the jury to be an accomplice to this as well. I thought that was a very clever way of making it very urgent, what he's saying. The other thing that he did as a matter of law is he emphasized the First Amendment, and he actually brought that up a lot in his closing. I didn't think it was the best closing, but I thought it was legally certainly important. What did he? Another thing that I think was really interesting was the Washington Post article that appeared in print was a transformative moment for women. That was it. I think Rottenborn also emphasized that the same day, and you guys can maybe set me right if I'm wrong, the same day that that article appeared, I think there was an article about Johnny Depp either saying that he'd lost a role in the Caribbean or some kind of negative publicity. In other words, this was his argument, that you can't blame the op-ed when something happened in the newspaper the same day as that op-ed. I thought that was quite interesting. He also said, I urge you to read it. He was saying to the jury, I urge you to read the op-ed, just the same way I urged you guys. I said, we've been covering this case for 6 weeks. Have you read the op-ed? So if you haven't read it, I urge you to read it. I'm not going to go through his explication of those 7 points, but I thought that was very well done. Basically giving a short legal lesson on what this case is really about, what the legalities are, and taking them step by step through all of them, because juries often are lay people and they need to be treated in a way as lay people. In other words, you've got to explain things in a kind of a simplified form, and especially the law. In the Casey Anthony case, I think they made a big mistake not making it clear that you can choose that particular verdict or that one or that subsection or whatever. The jury seemed to misunderstand that it was a sort of all or nothing thing, right? Anyway, so he emphasizes you must answer yes to all 7 points, right? And if you answer no to any one of those 7 points, Amber wins. Then you can't fine for Johnny. He goes on to say, it is Mr. Depp's burden to prove each and every element. And if he can't prove each and every element of those 7 points, misheard wins. And he kept emphasizing that. Now, if you think about what Vasquez said, I just want to juxtapose these side by side, right? Literally side by side. You have Rottenborn saying, if there's one element that is that Johnny Depp can't meet the burden of, he wins. Ms. Vasquez says, the mountain of evidence is simply not there. You either believe all of it or you believe none of it. And that's not really what it's about. It's about, do you believe any of it? If so, Amber wins. If you believe that one of those 14 things happened, Amber wins. He goes on to say the ACLU wrote the first draft. I think we knew that. He also says, if Amber was abused by Mr. Depp even one time, then she wins out. Now, let me ask you this question. Think about even a functional marriage where people live happily ever after. Do you think that someone in that functional marriage wasn't abused once? In other words, someone didn't hit them or throw something at them or, I don't know, was abusive in some way. I'm now talking about just a normal relationship where there's no substance abuse problems, where does someone not at some point lose their temper, right? And so now it's in this situation where there are 14 separate incidents listed, and he emphasizes, and this is what I've been trying to emphasize all along, if there's just one instance where they say, and this is not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, this is the burden is like 51%. I think that is likely what happened. If they think that just one time, Amber wins. Let me come back to the question I asked you guys earlier. I said, if there was mutual abuse, do you think Amber wins or do you think Amber loses? Let me ask that question again. If you think there was mutual abuse, does that mean Johnny wins? In other words, if Johnny was abusing Amber and Amber was abusing Johnny, does that mean Johnny wins? In other words, Johnny succeeds in saying that Amber abused him. Ricardo Ortiz says mutual abuse, no one wins. We're talking about in the context of the court case. Baby Boss says, what do you think of the makeup of the jurors? I heard from Law and Crime that this was one of the presenters said that he didn't really see them ever laughing. So if Johnny was laughing, he was saying it's incredible how close the jurors are sitting to Johnny Depp. He didn't really see them laughing. If Johnny was amused or chuckling, he didn't see that they were laughing. I thought that was quite an interesting thing to say. Marianne Gary's got a criticism here. I get that you want to be authentic and sweet to women, but did you actually watch any of the trial? You can't ignore that stuff, and you can't ignore the people who did not see her injured. So I find that an interesting statement to make. Did you actually watch the trial? What do you think these are? What do you think these notes are? Anyway. I don't know if it is you who also said, I think your entire argument here is because you think Amber Heard is pretty. I don't know. How do you answer something like that? So all of these arguments I've been making for 2 hours and 10 minutes, in your mind, is it all of that means nothing because you think she's pretty? Switch flicked. So I don't know, like, to have such a clouded bias. So you basically say everything you're saying is because you think she's pretty, when I've been arguing that those 14 allegations, what's that got to do with that? But that must be how you're thinking. I don't know. I find it really offensive. I find it reductionist, oversimplistic, and not true. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, people will think what they will think, won't they? So he goes on to say, if you think they were mutually abused, Amber wins as well. I didn't actually know that. I didn't know that if mutual abuse is what the jury find, Amber still wins. Then the other thing, like in the O.J. Simpson case, he talks about, that is that famous line, if it doesn't fit, you have to acquit. Not obviously as good as that, but I thought pretty effective was Rottenborn saying, one time, ladies and gentlemen, one time. That is what this comes down to. I just want to see what is being said here. Marge, just check out Marion Gary. I think she's like on the warpath. So just take note of what is being said there. I'm not going to police it myself. Then Rottenborn's version of this is the real Johnny Depp, this is the real Amber Heard. Remember, you got the same thing from Vasquez, right? I thought this was really done effectively because in the end, this is really the question, who is the real Johnny Depp? And so are we sitting in a court situation because Johnny Depp is actually just a wonderful, misunderstood, whimsical character? Has all of this happened because Johnny's just misunderstood? Are we here because Amber's just a horrible human being, right? In other words, there's a lot of smoke, but there's actually no fire at all, and it is actually much ado about nothing, right? When I said earlier it's much ado about nothing, I actually literally meant the op-ed. Making the op-ed defamatory is much ado about nothing. I'm not saying the rest, the fabric of what the op-ed was about. I'm not saying that's much ado about nothing. So I just want to clarify that. Anyway, so he says, these words are a window into the heart and mind of America's favorite pirate. This is the real Johnny Depp. That was his response, basically saying these words. Now, as a writer and a narrator, I often try and do the same thing. I try and show who a person is using their own words, right? And so here he does that. Instead of just saying it with words, just saying, you've seen the real Amber Heard scary, the way Vasquez does. Here you have Rottenborn saying, these words are a window into the heart and mind of America's favorite pirate. This is the real Johnny Depp. And then he shows the text that he wrote. I'm not going to say the words that he says, but you know what they were. And I thought that was painfully effective. Quite weirdly, at this point, there was an Amber Alert in court. Like there was literally everyone's phones went off. and people have been making a joke about Amber Alerts or whatever. Well, there's literally an Amber Alert in court at this time. Yeah, as I say, he ended off talking about the First Amendment. Anyway, that's Rottenborn done. Now we go on to, is it Breederhoff? She dealt with the counterclaim. So her brief was kind of totally different. And she basically said, so when I first started covering this case, and I really didn't cover this case a lot, because whenever I did, I got punished. Whenever I did, I got insulted. Whenever I did, I got told how stupid I am and you don't know what you're talking about and you don't know American culture and I disagree with you, so I'm unsubscribing. I didn't want to be silenced, but I also realized, okay, some really strong feelings here. I did feel like it was really important to have a few assessments before the verdict. I didn't want to come after the verdict and say whatever. So I thought I would take a couple of hits anyway, even though it was obvious what was happening. Anyway, so Breederhoff says the UK case took place in July 2020. I didn't really know that. Just do a quick Google search. Okay, so did you guys know that the UK case took place in July 2020, and a lot of the fabric of the counterclaim came from this? In other words, indirectly in a sense, because in the run-up to the UK case, there were 3 Daily Mail articles. In any event, the point I'm trying to make is the UK case made it into the closing arguments. So the closing arguments are like the highlights, the most important things. And yeah, it makes it actually into the closing arguments. Whenever I mentioned UK case, people said, this is America. The UK is totally different and their court system doesn't work or whatever. And yeah, you have it brought up by American lawyers in an American court in the closing arguments. It's absolutely relevant, right? And so what's really interesting is this dealt with the counterclaim. So in other words, this is the counterclaim saying actually Johnny defamed Amber, and then it refers to 3 Daily Mail articles, not one article, not like just an op-ed, 3 Daily Mail articles. And then the question is, what did he say about her? And the answer is, whatever you say about the op-ed, in these 3 Daily Mail articles, Amber's name is mentioned, the word hoax is mentioned. I think somewhere, I wish I could remember this more clearly, but apparently Adam Waldom, the attorney for Johnny Depp, I'm not sure if he's still his attorney, I think he might be. Thanks, Amy. But apparently, according to what Elaine Breederhoff said, was that this Waldom threw down a newspaper. I don't know whether it was like in front of Amber or whatever, but in court in the UK, he sort of flung this newspaper, he sort of slapped it down. And then Elaine Breederhoff's point was that done with malice, do you think? So here you have, I mean, that's an incredible detail. Here you actually have Johnny Depp's lawyer, like taking a newspaper and going like this, right? Like that in front of Amber Heard, I guess. And then I guess the thing she was supposed to do was look in the newspaper. And then what do you think is in the newspaper? The whole question is, do you think malice could be associated with that? This is in terms of the counterclaim. The other thing she spoke about was that this lawyer went to the LAPD, and you guys, I think, know what was related to that, with like a notebook full of things. She was saying that's malice. And then that then appeared, him going to the LAPD and then saying they're investigating Amber Heard. I think that appeared in a German newspaper. She was saying that's malice. That was her case. She also called Adam Waldom an attack dog. That's one lawyer calling another lawyer an attack dog. I thought that was quite interesting. So what I wrote here just is there's this emphasis on the UK case, and that Depp testified for parts of 5 days in the UK case. A lot of people said, no, he was never even there, and this is his first chance to speak. And he even said that as well. I think he said, I've been waiting for my chance to settle my side of the story. Well, actually, he did in the UK, and then he lost that case. That's something also I don't think was emphasized enough, was that he actually lost that case. Then he appealed that case and he lost it again. Johnny testified in that case, Amber testified in that case. A lot of the same stuff that was there was here, and he lost that case. So you've got to kind of ask the question, is the UK really this crappy colony with a shitty legal system or not? Or is the legal system in Great Britain not too shabby? And maybe what happened in the legal system there is something to consider. Maybe it's relevant in another legal setting. Something else Breeder Hoft said was he has deep-seated anger issues that have nothing to do with Amber. I just thought that was quite an interesting observation from her. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that was part of her closing. Something that I thought was a weakness in this trial, but especially in the closing arguments, was I thought if you're going to argue malice and intent and defamation, I don't know how you can leave the internet out of that equation. I don't know how you can leave social media out of that equation. I don't know how you can not properly emphasize the organized bots and the organizing of the internet to support Johnny and to trash Amber. I don't know how you can not do that. I don't think that was done very well. Something that they could have done, which I just didn't do, which I thought was a failure, was the get Amber fired from Aquaman 2. Well, put that up. Put up the thing so people can see it, right? That's a real campaign that's underway right now. Get Amber fired from Aquaman 2. The last I heard, I think it had 4 million signatures, right? That's malicious. Like, we literally want her fired because we don't like her or she's a liar, right? So the fact that wasn't put up there and the source linking that properly, I thought that was a weakness. Another thing that I think just is part and parcel of chronic drug abuse is paranoia. And I'm talking from experience, not as an experienced drug addict, but as in terms of the experience of someone I know who is, which is you take certain drugs and that leads to paranoia. And you've got no idea what we're talking about. I'm talking about if you've not experienced this paranoia, you've got no idea how sick and crazy and what's the word? It's just you don't know what to do because someone is literally psychotic. So when you have this level of paranoia where you've lost touch with reality, I'm not going to color this in for you just because I'm not going to reveal this person's identity, but it's something that happened actually really not long ago. And that paranoia is part and parcel of particular substances. And what that leads to is that, I mean, one of the most obvious forms of paranoia is my partner cheating on me. It's like anything that you're a little bit paranoid about, not on these substances, you are very paranoid about on them. And that leads to, so you make accusations, I think you're cheating on me, I think this or whatever, and it leads to very unsettled relationships. It really undermines the bonds that normally hold people together. When somebody basically starts going crazy, the only way to get them back to reality is to put them on antipsychotics, antipsychotic medication. And most of those people don't want to go on it because it's a admission that I am psychotic. There is something wrong with me, and they don't want to acknowledge that, right? Until you've been through that yourself, you don't know what it involves, and you don't know how it turns other people's lives absolutely upside down. Anyway, moving on from that. So I just want to say paranoia is absolutely part and parcel of the menagerie of things that ail, like a very, someone who's a chronic abuser. And in a situation where his wife is bisexual, you can imagine the paranoia. Are you interested in that man or that woman? I saw that woman give you a hug. Or what is something happening here? That's part of the narrative of those 14 allegations. I think it comes up 2 or 3 times in that. Then I've heard people say there are no witnesses at all. Certainly in the closing argument, she talks about Rocky Pennington and Whitney Heard getting between Johnny and Amber. So I don't know. I think I was only aware that one of them did. I thought it was only Whitney, just the sister. But anyway, and then the bottom line was she said, did you guys know this? Well, before I tell you the answer, let me ask you guys, how much money do you think Amber has spent thus far on attorney's fees? I don't know if this includes the UK. I don't know what the start date is to it, but I think regardless, it's quite a princely sum. Do you guys know how much money Amber Heard has spent on attorney fees? That's right, $6 million. $6 million on attorney's fees. I don't know whether that's specific to this case, but if you look at the size of her legal team and the length of the case, so if the jury decide that they really going to be kind, it's the opposite. If the jury decide that they're not going to give Amber anything, they find in her favor, but they're not going to give her any sort of special treatment. They might say, we find in your favor, but we're not going to give you anything extra. Or we're basically just going to set things like at equal kind of thing. In other words, let's say they say, just hypothetically, we believe you, but we don't really want to give you anything. Or we believe something that you said, but we don't really want to give you anything. But you should be at least paid for your legal costs. That alone will be $6 million, theoretically. I'm just saying hypothetically. Then I think if I understand this correctly, I think Elaine Brederhoft said that according to their calculations, she's lost between 47 and 50 million in lost earnings. So if you add that together, it's 56 million, right? It's quite a lot. She also asked for $350,000, I think, in compensatory damages. I'm not quite sure what that's about. What I thought is quite funny, maybe that's inappropriate, but it was quite interesting to me that she said, we don't want 100 million. She said, Johnny Depp sued Amber for 50 million. We countersued for 100 million. We don't want 100 million. I thought that was quite a frank admission. don't give us 100 million. We don't want 100 million. She was kind of just saying that the 100 million was almost to say, we are indignant about this. If they're indignant, we are really, really indignant about this. But anyway, she was basically saying, we're not actually asking for 100 million. We're asking for, I don't think she actually said that. She just said lost earnings, 47 to 50 million. Amber spent 6 million on attorney's fees and 300. If you add it all up, it looks like potentially 56.3 million. 56.3 million. That's a potential amount that's being fielded here. I doubt whether I don't think if the jury find in her favor, I doubt whether they're going to give her anything near that. I'm just saying, if the jury are like, we're totally convinced of Amber's case and we sympathize or whatever, I don't know. I can't see them giving much more than 10 million, but who knows? But whatever the amount is, and I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate, if she had to win, I just think there would definitely be an appeal and we would go through the whole thing all over again. It would be an appeal, and can you make the amount less, and this, that, and the next thing. And that's my spiel. 350,000 was for, is it 375,000? The world of the juniper cat says, I'm happy you are being fair on this channel. Thanks. Well, not everyone thinks I am. Yeah, so that is it. I didn't actually watch the rebuttal final arguments. I didn't bother to watch that. So let's look at a couple of your questions. Nisi says, thank you very much. Cecilia Yang says, whatever the verdict, Amber Heard may have to live outside of the US. Yeah, that could be right. Maybe that is what she should do, is go and move to Britain and work there. Maybe that's the answer. Tiffy says, not everyone is going to agree. It's not possible. Bridget Bowman says, society's narrative in this country is if you are a beloved celebrity, sporting hero, or just wealthy, it means you're a good person. Jury instruction, did you watch that to see what they will actually rule on? Yeah, well, there were 7 points. Did you watch that? Muffin Top says, her lying about the donations is really low. Johnny Depp not only donated, he would be there in support of the children. So that's something I actually didn't touch on here, but she did actually make a donation. I think it was, yeah, it's an emotional subject. Thanks, Nisi. See, Nisi, you brought a smile to my face. Thanks a lot for that. As far as I know, she made one, maybe 2 donations of 100,000. Elon Musk made, I think, 2 donations of $500,000 each. Obviously, that doesn't count. It's not like, I don't know whether she asked him to donate to her charity and then he did. But I mean, she did have a relationship with him. But at the end of the day, that charity got over $1 million from Amber and her new boyfriend. That's already not bad. I mean, the total they were going to get is 3.5 million. The other thing, and I didn't know this, someone sent me a document showing that the I don't know what you call it, the what do they call it when you undertake to pay? But anyway, whatever that is, in her undertaking, the undertaking was over 10 years. So I think there's still 4 years to go. So she undertook to give this charity 3.5 million over a 10-year period. So it's not like she said, I would do it on that day and she just never did it. It's like an ongoing thing. The thing that I find a little bit bizarre is I haven't given much to charity. I mean, I give to, in South Africa, it's quite different. There are a lot of poor people around, and a good example is, people fill up in South Africa. It's different to America. When we go to a gas station, someone puts gas into your vehicle, right? You don't get out the vehicle and put gas in. Someone comes out and puts it in your vehicle, and they often clean your windscreen and so on. I often give them money. But anyway, the point is, what I'm trying to emphasize is I'm not a sort of a charity case, meaning I don't sort of often give to charities. And I don't know, have you given much to charity? And so I just think it's a bit weird to be pointing one's finger at someone and saying, I mean, isn't the fact that she undertook to give to charity a good thing? Her financial situation definitely has changed. She owes her lawyers 6 million, which feels like it must be almost all the money that she has. She must have spent almost all her money on lawyers. But no, she must still pay charity. I don't know. I just think that's a bit of an unfair thing, that's all. Also, I don't think you can make the case that she never gave them anything. I think she did make 2 payments of $100,000. So, but someone will say, I think she's beautiful, so I'm biased towards her or something. I don't know. Thought criminal, I donate, but next time I want to be on TV claiming I gave $1 million and not 200,000. Good point. You must just bear in mind that all of this is celebrity publicity. At the time that she wrote the op-ed and at the time that she was hitching a ride on the Me Too movement, it was all when the Aquaman thing was coming on. So all of that is by design. All of that is strategic. But if you're going to look at that and say that's evil or that is manipulative or that's wrong, that's how Hollywood works. That's how it works to gain traction as a star. It would be as, so I don't know. That's just how it works, that's all. And then her situation changed. She could very easily just have kept the entire amount for herself, and I think most people would have done that. Most people would have said, oh, I got 7 million in a divorce, I think I'll keep it. Wouldn't most people keep that? That's quite a good point. Someone says, I don't know just how to say your name. I'm a Sidoro, says she wrote the op-ed to benefit herself, not out of malice. I think that's a good point. Teresa says she pledged it, so she should pay it. Nick, she lies like a rug. Okay. So Teresa, my answer is, if let's say Johnny is ordered by the court or the jury find that Amber must pay, let's say, 23 million, then she can afford to pay them. So, it's probably not what you want to hear, but I'm aware of all that stuff. I also don't think it's the same thing to say she didn't pay anything when she did pay something. But I kind of compare apples to apples. If I'm going to criticize someone for not paying a charity, have I paid a charity? That's all. Choice says, and Choice is from New Zealand. Thanks for that kiwi. I've actually got some kiwis in my refrigerator. It says her op-ed was part of her healing journey. Yeah. She says she claimed she paid it all. To me, that's where I think there's a difference of interpretation. At the time, she may have meant it. I'm going to give 3.5 million to charity, and she did sign an agreement with them. That's what the whole op-ed and everything was about. And she probably felt like she can afford it because of what's going to happen next. She's going to go onto Aquaman 2 and everything. What I don't kind of understand is if you make a undertaking to pay millions and suddenly you lose your job, where's this thing where you say, no, I'm still going to pay all this money because I'm such a nice person? Isn't anybody who's lost their job going to say, no, I'm now a charity case. I don't have work. I need the money. I wanted to give the money. I can't give it now. And there is a bit of hyperbole in celebrity where you say things and it's a bit of an exaggeration. There's the same as minimizing. I drink a bit. I like the odd drink. Yeah, it's a bit of minimization. It's the same thing. So, Teresa, if you donate to charities, you perfectly justified in being very upset that she doesn't. You totally justified. I don't, though. I see the fact that she offered to do it as better than nothing. Stephanie, it's really good to see you here. Stephanie answered a really important question saying if you click on the $sign under the chat, it should give you the option under the super sticker option. Thanks for that, Stephanie. Axie says, Nick, your work and integrity are always appreciated, even when we see things a bit differently. Well, I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. We're going to see, obviously, I don't know what the verdict's going to be, and we're going to see what it is, and we'll see what it is. And once it comes out, is there going to be an instant announcement, we're appealing? I wouldn't be surprised. Bruce Thompson's good to see some guys here. Says, exactly, circumstances change, hyperbolic, not lies, pretentious, yes. She gave to charity, did you? Get off the moral high ground. That's just my position. Tammy says she was only given that money in the first place by Johnny because she pledged the money. So you can, not there yet, thanks very much, justice for all, definitely. That's a great way of putting it. Let's have justice for all, not just for that person. What is that? To me, can we get back to the case? The case is about defamation. It's not about did Amber give to charity or not. And if I sort of throw in my cards and I say, Tammy Lynn, Amber lied and she didn't give to charity, it doesn't affect this case whatsoever. It still means this is a case about defamation. So it's not about did she give to charity or not, right? You can sort of harp on that, but it's not part of the case. It's got nothing really to do with the case. It has a lot to do with, I don't like Amber. I think she's insincere. I think she's manipulative. I'm not saying that. I'm sort of saying what is being said. But that's a totally different argument, and I'm not really interested in that argument. I'm not interested in Johnny's handsome and Amber's deceitful. I'm interested in what is the legal argument here, and the burden is on Johnny, and it's very hard to meet. And another thought that I had, and I'm just sharing my thoughts honestly, was, has Johnny been manipulated by his legal team into thinking that he could win this case? Because I don't think it's very easy to win. So have they told him what he wants to hear? Have they been really, because think about it, they also being paid a fortune. So I think a really good argument could be made that Amber and Johnny, neither of them should have gotten involved in this case, because the big winners here are going to be the lawyers. No matter what Johnny gets and no matter what Amber gets, the lawyers are going to walk away with a couple of million. So they are definitely the winners in this story. The fact that this thing went on for so long is just, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jean Karras says, appreciate your knowledge and objectivity. Thanks for keeping it real, Nick. Yeah, so, I've said that this channel is the most authentic voice in true crime, and I'm hoping that it's going to be shown over the next few days. Maybe it's not going to be shown. Maybe people are going to say, this case showed that you don't know what you're talking about. This case showed that you are a fool when it comes to a beautiful woman or whatever. This case shows that you don't know anything about the American legal system. On the other hand, it may show the opposite. We'll see. We'll see. Did I miss a super chat? Not there yet. I did say thanks for that. Thank you for that. Okay. Onesie. So, wow, onesie, that is awesome. That is really awesome. I really appreciate that. I must tell you, in all my lives on Johnny Depp, there's been like no super chats, no supports. It's like, don't tell us this. We don't want to hear what you've got to say. So I really appreciate that. Tammy Lynn says, you're right, but to be fair, you're the one who brought up the charity stuff. I did bring it up, but it's not like the centerpiece of this. So I'm kind of going to wrap up. It's 2 hours, 46 minutes. But I just want to thank everyone who's been here. It's been, I think, quite a good conversation. The last time I did a live, the power went out and I was like, I think I was saved by the bell. It was almost like, I think that was someone smiling on me kind of thing. Anyway, this time the power stayed on and it actually turned out to be quite a good live. So thanks, guys. If you've disagreed with me, thanks for at least listening to me and interacting and sharing. This isn't about I'm right and you wrong, and hopefully it's not about you right and I'm wrong. It's really about figuring out, Ellie Cat says, I still love you, thank you. Figuring out, well, let me ask you this. Isn't this case in a way about figuring out who these people really are? To me, that is what is at the heart of so much of true crime. Who are these people really? Are we able to see who they really are, or are we not able to see who they really are? And often, thanks a lot, Kami. Thanks a lot for that. I think to the extent that you're able to see who someone really is analogous to your ability to see yourself, to be able to see yourself as wonderful, flawed, talented, someone with issues, but nevertheless, whatever, right? Timmy I think is lying on my bed. I think the ASMR has sort of sent him into dreamland. I'm Timmy's ASMR, by the way. So have we? And I think overall we have gotten to know, well, I did answer it. Timmy's, shall I try and call him, see if he can come? Timmy, come. Timmy, come. I hear him. Come, boy. Here he is. Come, boy, come. There we go. So it's a nice doggy when he gets up from bed just to answer the master. I can actually feel his heart beating against my chest. Shame. Must be tired. It's 10 to 2 in the morning. Anyway, there's Timmy for you. Just thanks, a big thank you to the mods, Sky, Stephanie, Nisi, Jean Karras. I don't know if Bria's still here, but it's always good seeing Bria. Bria is here. Great to see you. I know, Bria, you were here early in the night, but it is 10 to 2 in France, so I'm going to let you go. I'm also going to let myself go. Margaret Zabinski, so to all the members who are here, it's always nice seeing a member because you know you're going to get a bit of credit and a bit of friendliness. You know, when you see a member, you know, okay. But it's also been good to see some new faces, and I appreciate you guys dropping by and, hearing a bit from the South African talking about American law. When I started writing true crime, I thought, are Americans ever going to want to listen to what I've got to say? But of course, I could hide behind the penmanship. You can change your spelling to American spelling and they don't hear your accent. When I went onto YouTube, I was like, now it comes down to that. I'm not from America. Are you gonna give me a chance? So I appreciate you guys that have, and it definitely is kind of gratifying. Thought Criminal says, ha ha. Bruce Thompson, always love your insight and frequently agree. Appreciate that, Bruce. Sharon Lynn, I don't think I thanked you as a mod being here. Thanks a lot for being here. Great little pirate flag there. That's pretty cool. Thanks for that. Diana, I like your channel very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Teresa. Okay, guys, thanks very much. So I might be putting up my debunk to that law and lumber thing tomorrow. I've already written out the script. It's just a lot of video to put together. It's probably going to take 2-3 hours to do it properly. I might do another live just on those 3 Daily Mail articles. They've been almost fully redacted, and I kind of want to read out to you more of what's in them. But that is the substance of the countersuit. So we might be dealing with that pending the verdict. So we'll see when the verdict comes out. Axie says, we love your point of view. Thanks, Axie. Choice from New Zealand says, sleep well and we look forward to the next time. Thanks, guys. Are you guys going to go and watch Top Gun? That's just coming out. Just sold out the cinemas. On this side of the world, we love America, and Top Gun is absolutely sold out at the cinemas here. So I wanted to watch it tonight. Ended up, looks like I'm going to have to go tomorrow. So we'll see. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here, and watch out for that verdict. Let's see what it's going to be. Okay, take care.